Hi, I am Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the NVLD Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NVLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NVLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the NVLD project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoyed today's episodes. Because then I knew why so many things were challenging for me.
Yeah.
And it was, it made school easier too. And this is probably true for you as well, because I got some accommodations.
Yeah, my IEP definitely helps me during school.
Yeah. So, when did you find out you had NLD?
So I was 10 years old and I was having some behavioral issues, some spatial issues, all of the normal things that, well, not normal things, but some of the challenges some people with NLD face. So I went to go get neuropsych tested, and I had a lovely team that neuropsych tested me, and it just came up I had NVLD. I didn't really know what it was, so we did research, and that's basically how it came about.
That makes sense to me. For me, like I said, I was diagnosed in college, but I'm sure each state is a little different in terms of the testing. But I actually I had to go. I had to schedule an appointment with the testing department at UC Berkeley, where I went, and I had to kind of ask my parents for permission because they were going to pay for it. And
Yeah.
so it's like, um, I, I always thought I was kind of different from everybody in my family before then. And I was like, I think I need to be tested for a learning disability, to try to see if I can get more help. Cause before, college, when I was in high school, I was actually homeschooled, so mine was a little different, but I was a straight A student, and then when I got to college, I was finding it more challenging, and of course I didn't have extra help from tutors like I did before then. And I was like, is this just the college level that's making it harder, or is there something else? So um I'm glad I got the testing. And for me, they said I was probably born with it, but um, it's definitely hard to know what causes it sometimes. I mean, you can be
Yeah.
born with it, or sometimes uh, it's genetic. Do you know, in your case, if you were born with it, or if anybody else has NLD in your family?
So my younger cousin, he's about a few months younger than me. He recently got diagnosed with NLD. So we've been definitely been able to bond over that, but I don't know exactly like if I was born with it or it just developed over time.
Yeah, that can make sense, because I mean, I think that's true with any um, learning disability or challenge. People, it can be hard to tell if you were born with it or if it just acquired over time, like you said.
Yeah.
So how do you like? How does it make you feel having NLD? Is it more challenging, or do you get frustrated at times?
I get really frustrated like when I can't do like things that are like spatial tasks, like my school is a trade school or vocational school, so
Mm-hmm.
I really wasn't doing well in some of the shops that were more like spatially challenging, like electrical or plumbing, where it was like measuring and stuff like that. So I think my shop is a really good fit for me because it's early childhood education. I feel like since they're teachers and they work with younger kids who have special needs, they just get the world of IEPs and like learning disabilities.
Mm. Okay. So it sounds like your school has teachers that they already know about special needs.
Yeah, one of my guidance counselors, she's worked with kids who had NVLD, so
Mm-hmm.
she was really accepting and knew a lot of the things that I was talking about and got a lot of feedback and help for me. So I definitely use my resources and lean on my liaison and my guidance counselor.
That's definitely good. I know for me, when I was in school, I got frustrated too, and I um I don't know if you have these challenges, but for me, I always had a challenge with math and doing essays and I think some of the visual special stuff I had growing up, even though I didn't know that it was because of NLD, I had challenges with learning how to ride a bike. I didn't learn how until I was like in high school. And with, well, you probably aren't doing this yet, but I had challenges with learning how to drive as well. Like I didn't learn until I was 22. And with playing sports, that was challenging too because I felt myself kind of being clumsy and I fell a lot. Um,
With sports for me, it's hard to like, even though like my neuropsych test came back as my memory was like in the superior range, I feel like with school it's harder, especially with like things that I have to memorize like biology because it can't be like simplified down to a certain extent. And so is the
mhm,
same with history. But sports related, I just sometimes I really didn't get the rules. Like I used to play soccer before I knew that I had NLD, and I used to just like not get what. So like the ref would used to blow the whistle and say I was offside. So I was like, "What do you mean? Like I don't get it." So sports
mm,
was definitely challenging for me.
that makes sense. Do you, in terms of like academically and subjects, do you struggle with math or writing?
So I'm a really good writer.
Mm-hmm.
Math in middle school, I really struggled, but my school is very accommodating for me. So I get like accommodated worksheets and like I can always stay for extra help if I need it. So I try to do that, but I have a lot of extracurriculars that I do, especially with my title as my school colony scene. It's a lot to stay after school sometimes, but I really try to make sure my academic life comes first and I make sure that I'm prepared for what I need to be doing.
That's good. So you said you had some accommodations. Like, do you you get extra help from your teachers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had accommodations too in college. I was able to record the audio of my classes and I use that to help me take notes and study for exams. And then Um, what else did I have? I had audio of my textbooks, so I actually had a program on my computer that read the textbook aloud to me.
Yeah. That would be
Um,
really helpful because for me with NLD, I feel like reading's hard because I feel like I read the same line over and over again. And I'll read like a chapter of a book and I'm just like, what did I just read? So
mhm. Yeah, I remember having that problem too. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know how, like, I don't know if your school has programs, but like that. But they just, um,
actually afterwards I can email you about the programs I had, the names, because they might still be available for high school. Because basically, after I got tested, they gave me a list of commendations they suggested I would use, and then I tried them out, and I basically just stuck with having them. It made it easier. Um, so, what is it like growing up with NLD in terms of how it feels at school and your family and your friends?
So my family is very supportive of me, especially because my cousin has NLD. So they do their research and they try to find ways how they can interact with us different if we're having like a hard time. Um, for school, it was a little bit harder for me, especially when I didn't know that I had it, because I know I definitely didn't know I had it until I was 10, but I know I had it, like, if that makes sense, even before I got diagnosed. Like, so I think I had it in like elementary school even. So it was just harder. My teachers and my mom always stayed in contact because I've always been a child that's had trouble grasping some concepts. So it was definitely hard with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm fortunate to have a very supportive family too, and like yours, they do research on it, and as far as I know, I'm the only one in my family with NLD, but I think I probably got it from my dad's side because he was adopted, and we don't know much about his family, so I kind of speculate that because sometimes when I see characteristics in myself that I know I have because of NLD, sometimes I see them in my dad. um, so it's kind of hard not to see it though, like in somebody else when you know you have it.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned you have a cousin who has it. Do um, does he or she have some of the same challenges you do?
Yeah, he's very intelligent. So I know some people with NLD have trouble speaking, and like I feel like I'm very well spoken, and so is my cousin. So I feel like we share that characteristic, but I feel like we also share some differences. Like he's very quiet and I'm very loud. So I don't know if that has to do with NLD, but I feel like overall that we can be the same person sometimes. And I feel like even though there can be a lot of differences with people who have NLD, there's a lot of similarities that people can also have.
Yeah, that is true. I know for me, sometimes with me and my dad, sometimes we're very similar, sometimes we're very different. Like, um, sometimes I can be very literal and he can be that way too, with being
Yeah, I
black
don't
and
get
white,
them. That's like my biggest thing.
being literal.
Like, yeah, ex- I think since NVLD, like the nonverbal part, it's like I when I try to explain it to people, I say like I don't get nonverbal signs of communication, like sarcasm and body language, because personally I do not get that sense of communication with NVLD. So I feel like it's just worth explaining that to people because they can always benefit from it because they can learn how to interact with you from it.
That's true. And I think for me, I usually explain that too because sarcasm is still a little challenging for me to get, but it's easier than it used to be, and I think I just got better over time with
Yes.
watching like funny movies or stuff like that, and it's like, oh, okay, it's
Yeah.
meant to be sarcastic. What else? Do you notice if there are any like things that are easier for you to do because you have NLD, or just things that you think are easier in general than for some people?
I don't really know because for me, I have trouble going up to people and like making friends. I have a lot of trouble, like, since I have NLD, somewhat maintaining a relationship because I get confused a lot, and it, like, it's not that it doesn't work, it's just that they'll say something and I just don't get it, and then they'll get upset with me later because I don't get it when it's just because my brain processes things a little different. So, but yeah, that's basically it because I feel like people with NLD should be understood, but since NLD, I heard only 3% of the approximately only 3% of the population has it. I feel like it's not a really well-known disability. So through my platform with my NVLD as its platform, I feel like I'm trying to bring awareness to it so more people know about it because I feel like it's important for people to know how other people are and how other brains are different.
Yeah, it is definitely important for other people to know that. And you said earlier that you do some pageants. I was wondering if you could tell me more about those.
So it's for the Miss America organization. And my title right now, it's actually my first title. It's called Miss Old Colony's Teen. So I am based around some towns in Massachusetts. And basically, what you do is you have a CSI or a platform, and my platform is NVLD, Spreading Awareness on Non Verbal Learning Disabilities. And I take that and I put it out into the community and doing things like this podcast, and I wrote articles, and I'm trying to write a children's book. I feel like that's some ways that I can put my community service initiative into the community and bring awareness on it.
Cool. I'm glad you're doing that. I don't think I did anything like that when I was your age. Yeah, you definitely are doing a good things to spread awareness about NLD. And um, I mean, I I was diagnosed when I was 19, and I didn't start the podcast um until during COVID actually. Um, and it was kind of, I just thought about it because, like you, I wanted to spread awareness about NLD, and I realized that not many people knew about it or knew what it was. And I think I also wanted to like educate people that just because it's like autism or other learning challenges, it's not very obvious that somebody has it.
Yeah.
And so for me, I know sometimes I wish that the world would know just because it's not obvious doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
um, I don't know if you like if there's some things you wish your maybe your friends or your family or maybe your school knew more about NLD.
I feel like they should. I feel like people should first learn about NLD because I feel like once you learn about it, you can help accommodate people that do have it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been helpful for me and my family to learn about it because they can, like I said earlier, like better interact with me. So like when I'm having challenges doing something, like even like emptying the dishwasher, I have trouble with that because it's so like everything's going on at once and I'm just like, ooh, what am I doing? But I feel like they can help me through those challenges. So I feel like it's really important for people to like know about it so they can help people. Or like if they ever come across a person with NLD, they can help them with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have any like suggestions how they would learn about MLD?
Not really. I don't really know how my family learned about NLD, but since I was so young, they mostly told information to me. Like I didn't look it up. Well,
Hmm.
obviously they looked it up, but since it was told to me, I kind of just learned from them. So
That makes sense. I mean, um, I don't think I knew how my parents were doing it either. But my mom, she found a book. I think it's called NLD from the Inside Out. Um, I think the author is Michael Murphy. He himself has NLD, and his mom helped him write the book. And I think he actually has two books that are about NLD. I liked them not only because the author had NLD, but it just kind of helped me to read a book from somebody else's perspective who has NLD. And I think that helped me learn more about it. I think you were saying earlier you were trying to create a children's book.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So I don't really know how I'm gonna do it, but I definitely want to do it. But my plan is to go into schools, and I think I'm gonna make the book about me, like a character with like a different name that's kind of similar to mine. So my family calls me Khloe. So I think I'm gonna make like the main character's name Khloe, and I think I'm gonna do it like about NLD, but also inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go into schools, and I'll read that, and then I'll do an activity to follow up with that.
I like that idea. I think that's good to have a book about NLD and have it be geared towards kids because there's definitely uh I would say there's probably not that much out there about NLD in terms of
Yes,
for children, and I think that would make it be something easier for them to relate to.
definitely.
Um, do you ever wish you don't have NLD?
So I'm gonna be real sometimes, only because of some of the struggles I face, but I feel like NLD makes me the person I am today, and that I always say when I go into a pageant interview at the end, I say, my goal is to try to not only help people advocate for themselves for someone who has NLD or for themselves if they have NLD, and not only learn about it, but also, wait, what was the question? Sometimes I forget the question. I think it's part
It's
of it.
okay. I was just saying if you ever wish you didn't have it.
Oh, so yeah, sometimes I don't wish, but I feel like at the end of the pageant interview, I always say, not two minds think alike, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to learn different, and so I think NLD definitely makes me the person I am today.
Yeah, I would say I feel similar too for me. Uh I definitely when I'm like really frustrated about something and I know it's because of NLD, like if I'm frustrated with trying to balance the money I spend or trying to connect with somebody socially and like get the social cues and sarcasm. Um, I think for me, sometimes I wish I didn't have it, but that's probably just because I'm like caught up in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, like you said, it does make us who we are, and it's definitely a way for us to express ourselves and get to know ourselves better, I think.
Yeah.
Um, do you ever feel like having NLD is a burden or like it just makes things more challenging or heavyweight?
Definitely at first because I'm diagnosed with depression and anxiety. So I feel like mixed with that and my new diagnosis, it was really hard for me and I felt really different. But now, since I'm medicated and I'm older, I feel like it's not really a big deal and I'll just keep on advocating for myself.
That's good. Yeah, I think for me, I definitely felt like it was a burden at sometimes in terms of I knew it made like not only my life but my parents' life more challenging and my family. Um, but it was good to be able to like know that it wasn't just challenging because of me. There were other aspects involved. What was I gonna ask? You said you were medicated. Is that for the NLD or for the depression?
I'm gonna be honest, I really don't know. I've switched so many meds throughout the years, so I don't really know what they're for, to be honest.
I was just curious because I know sometimes people find like if they have ADHD or if they sometimes there's medication out there for that, but
Oh, I'm pretty sure I take medicine for ADHD, and that helps me focus because I feel like with my NLD, I really need to be focused and locked into what I'm doing so that I can get what I'm doing. So
mhm.
it's not a big confusion thing.
That makes sense. I mean, uh I don't I don't think I have medication for NLD. I just take some meds for my chronic migraines, but I uh like for me the way I focus when I'm working, or actually I did this when I had schoolwork too. I would try to play music in the background, and then that can help me zone out and concentrate more. Um but I get what you're saying because sometimes when I'm like talking to somebody or when I'm trying to do work, sometimes I zone out without realizing it. Um, do you ever have moments like that?
Yeah, I do. Music for me
Mm-hmm.
helps sometimes, but when it's a song I really like, I'm just like kind of jamming to the music. So I have to make sure that I'm listening to music that will actually help me focus rather than music where I'll just jam out to.
That makes sense. Yeah. Um, so you were saying about this a little bit earlier, but do you ever like if your cousin who has an LD is having challenges, and you try to motivate him or yourself, what do you try to say when you're like discouraged?
So I would say that like some comments that other people find motivational don't really help me. Like it's gonna be okay. Like
Mm,
because like it's not okay in the moment. So that comment kind of flusters me up. But I feel like when people say like you got this, like you're gonna get through it, like in like some context saying like it's okay, like you're gonna get through this, it's fine. But like when you just say like it's okay, I don't know about that one.
that makes sense. Yeah, because like you said, it doesn't feel okay until maybe you look back at it and realize, okay, you know, uh, I know for me sometimes um, I make things more difficult than they need to be. And uh, sometimes that makes it harder. um, but yeah, I think for me, usually I try to like remind myself of what used to be challenging for me and like realize it's not as challenging as it was, because that helps motivate me to kind of look back at excuse me, how and compare things. um uh uh, what I was curious about was like, I don't know if you have done this before, but sometimes I like wonder if like if you know somebody who doesn't know they have NLD or learning disability, but thinks that they do have. Um, one, how would you encourage them to like get tested or find out more about it?
I don't I don't really know that one.
It's okay. I mean, for me, I I kind of would just encourage them to like kind of do more research about what they think they have, and to see if they can identify with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Now that I think of it, I would probably like I don't really know, but like I think I would be like if they like verbally say something like, this is harder for me and this is harder for me, and it's like something
Mm.
that I identify with, I would probably talk to them about it and talk about how I have NLD and try to see if they think like they have it. So
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. I mean, it, I think it's easier for people to relate to something if somebody else can explain to them the challenges they have and see if they have similar challenges. Um, so just a couple more questions. What is your proudest accomplishment?
my proudest accomplishment was definitely getting into my shop, especially because we go through this thing called exploratory at my school where you explore all the different shops. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have a choice but to explore the more technical shops. And you have to get a really high grade to get into your first shop pick. Um, and early childhood education was my first shop pick. So I'm really proud of myself that I did good and I accommodated and spoke up for myself in every other shop so that I could get the shop I wanted in the end.
That's good. It sounds like your school definitely offers good extracurriculars and a way for you to connect with people that are younger than you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Are there any questions you have for me or anything you want to add?
I would say like I'm gonna turn a question back on you. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
say like since I'm only 14 and I have NVLD, like and I'm thinking about like college, like how did you accommodate for yourself when you were in college since it's a higher level of education?
Yeah, that's a good question. Uh, for me, I think it was challenging at first because I didn't know what NLD was, just like anybody would. And I once I knew what more about it, like from the counselor, or I think it was a psychologist who diagnosed me. Once they kind of shared with me what it was and helped me learn more about it. And I think for me, one of the ways I accommodated for myself was making sure that my professors like knew about my accommodations, because um sometimes I think when it's like a big school like Berkeley, they I think like sometimes the accommodations just can kind of get lost. So I wanted to make sure that they had received the email about it, because usually that's how they know that you need accommodations. And I definitely took advantage of the ones was given and used them basically any time I could. And I also asked my teacher's assistants if I could record like the office hours I had with them, because I found that helpful, because like b- um like yourself, when you were saying earlier, when you read, it's hard for you to understand what you read. I had that too, and actually I think I still have that to some extent, because I can remember when I was reading um some of my sociology assignments or that material, it was challenging, and so to understand it, and so I would like make sure I had office hours with my teacher's assistant to help me understand it. Um, and I think that's why I recorded them, because it was like I found myself sometimes forgetting what they had said.
Yeah.
Um, and so if I went over the recording, made it easier to remember it. Um, so yeah, I definitely tried to make sure I had the accommodations and that I thought of other ways to like take advantage of them and um be able to ask for help. But it's challenging because sometimes you don't know you need help until you realize that you're struggling.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, I think for me also, now that I'm out of school and have been for a few years. It's also challenging because, like, when I'm working, I have to remind myself that um, it's okay to ask for help and be able to like know that you can ask other people for help because um, I don't know, sometimes people feel like that's um, like a sign of weakness. But for me, I feel like it's a sign of strength actually, because you're asking for help and putting yourself out there.
Definitely.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Nope.
Okay. Um, I'll stop the recording.